Yeah, hi, interwebs. Okay, so for anybody who has joined in the last 3 seconds, my name is Megan Sullivan. I am a senior software engineer at Gatsby, and I focus mainly on documentation. And I am joined today by Generosa Litton. Do you want to introduce
Hello.
yourself?
Yeah, hi. Hi, everyone in the interwebs. I'm Generosa Litton, and I'm a solutions engineer at Gatsby. And my role here is to ensure that customers who use Gatsby are successful and in using it and meeting their goals from a performance perspective. And I'm here with Megan to learn alongside with you guys.
Woo! Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
a great segue into the introduction. So, what we're starting today is going to be the first in a series of live streams that we're going to do every other week called Learn with Megan and Generosa. And we're going to be going through the new Gatsby tutorial. So, actually, let me share my screen real quick. So, we just launched this today. We are starting now that Gatsby version 3 is out. We needed to update the tutorial to make sure that y'all were learning the latest and greatest ways to use Gatsby. And so what we've done is released the first 3 sections of this tutorial. And then there's more still to come. And those sections will be added as I finish writing them. But for this series, what we're going to do is basically go through this new tutorial to guide you through it and show you how everything works. And Generosa has volunteered to be the guinea pig and help give feedback and ask questions so that y'all don't just have
Yeah.
to listen to me talk the whole time.
Yeah, and I'm here
um,
also to show you that, I'm not a like pure software engineer. I'm more of a hobbyist, but hopefully, get better. I'm here to show you that, Gatsby isn't that difficult and anyone can use it. So,
there you go.
yeah.
Awesome. Some quick announcements before we get into it. As per usual, we're going to have a giveaway going on in the chat so that you can get some Gatsby swag if you fill out a short little survey. So keep an eye on that if you want some fun Gatsby themed toys. And
The
then also
sweatshirt?
just, yeah,
Yeah.
sweatshirt. What else do we have? Stickers, socks. I don't know. I've
Ooh.
no promises on these things, but enter the giveaway and you'll
Yeah.
see what we have. Uh, just to set some ground rules really fast for expectations with everybody, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that you belong here. If things are going on in the stream that are confusing, that's on me. That's not your fault. So feel free to drop questions in the chat or just to say, like, hey, Megan, that didn't make any sense. Can you explain that again? And then along those same lines, I'm going to ask you all to respect each other's learning journeys and know that just because you know something doesn't mean that other people know it. So be kind to each other and also be kind to yourself. And if you don't understand things, it's okay. Nobody
Yeah,
was born knowing how to do any of this. So
that's right.
we'll all get there together.
Yay.
All right. So
Cool.
now with that out of the way, let's do it.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
Okay. So, Generosa, you got a chance to look at these a little bit ahead of time.
Yep.
Do you want to talk about, well, I guess actually here, let me share my screen again just to show the sort of steps. So, part 0 of the tutorial is going to be all of the setup instructions. So, teaching you how to install things, getting Node set up, getting the Gatsby CLI set up. So the command line interface that you can use to run Gatsby commands from your terminal. And then there's also a couple of accounts that you're going to need for this. Let's click down to that one. So you're going to need a GitHub account for storing your code on GitHub once we get to that. And you're also going to need a Gatsby Cloud account. So if you haven't yet, check out this link. Actually, let me drop this in the chat. Boop. Okay. So if you want to get started, follow along, this is going to be the link to the download instructions. And then Generosa, you said that you had some specific installation issues when you were going through this. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So I have the privilege of having one of the latest and greatest MacBook Pros, which is using the M1 chip. And all past installations like Homebrew and all that are based on the x86 Intel chip. And so, I was installing it and like getting all these errors and realized that, you have to have something specific for the M1. But as of like 2 days ago, Homebrew supposedly now supports the M1 chip. But in case you do get stuck, things move so quickly. There are some commands I use to do for Brew to install Homebrew. And then
here, do you want me to add your screen?
Yeah. Yeah. So the M1 install. So this, maybe if I can make that bigger. Yeah. I had to use this command. Should I put it on the chat? Would that be?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Make it easy to copy and paste.
Yeah. So that's what I used to install Homebrew. And then after I installed Homebrew, I had to run this to install the Gatsby CLI. So just a tip, and that's Benny, my cute pit bull. And
actually, it looks like you added these. It looks like you added these into the private chat. So there's like a comments section.
Okay. All right. See, I'm learning. I'm learning.
Yeah.
Yeah. First time on this platform. Okay. So where do I? Oh, just on the bottom.
Yeah. There's a comments tab.
Yeah. I see a comments tab. I don't see anything on. So.
Oh, does it not let you post things? Here, I'll just copy it.
Maybe if you could do that for me, that'd be good.
Yeah. I got you.
Okay. All right. So that's for Homebrew, and then the next one is after Homebrew, and maybe maybe Homebrew is okay now. You may not have to do it, but again, just to save you some headache and heartache, like I experienced, just do that.
There you go.
Yeah,
just in case. Sweet.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. So now, actually, Generosa, I'm going to send you the link to part 1. If you could open that in your browser tab, and we can just sort of go through it as we.
Okay, I think, yeah, I do have part 1. So let me open that here.
All right, sweet.
Okay.
So in this, we're going to see how the timing works out today. We'll be here for roughly an hour, so like 50-ish more minutes. And we're going to try and get through part 1. So part 1 of the tutorial is all about creating your first Gatsby site. You'll have a template that you're going to create it from and deploying it. So by the end of this session, you should have your very own Gatsby site live on the internet. So we'll go through this in a couple of different steps. So if you scroll down a little bit, there should be a picture here.
Yep.
Yeah, this one. So this is an overview of roughly the process that we're going to go through. So there's you in the bottom left corner. You're working on your own little computer on your Gatsby code. And then when it's time to put it on the internet, you're going to push that code into GitHub. It's on the cloud. So once your code is on GitHub, we're going to create a site on Gatsby Cloud that is going to watch your GitHub repository. And then basically when it sees that your code on GitHub has been updated, Gatsby Cloud will say, oh, I need to build a new version of your site, and then rebuild it, put it on the internet, and then your users can access it from their devices.
Yep.
So if that was a lot, that's totally fine. We're going to go through each of these steps now.
Cool. All right.
So, Generosa, the first thing that you're going to do is run this Gatsby new command.
Okay. So,
and this, yeah, this you're going to run in whatever directory that you want to create your new site in. So Generosa is doing it from her desktop. Okay. And this is going to tell you how to this is basically going to open up this little interactive wizard that you see here, which is going to help you create the folder structure for your first site.
Okay.
So let's see, what should we call this? You can call it whatever you want. Learn with Megan and Generosa, my first Gatsby site.
Let's go learn with Sully.
Yeah, sweet, love it.
Okay, so enter.
Okay, so that's going to be the name of your site, and then it's going to ask you what folder you want to create your site in. So you can name that whatever you want, or you can just hit enter and it'll use the default.
Okay.
Okay, so now will you be using a CMS? So it's this Gatsby new command is going to ask you some questions to try and help you configure your site. It's going to try and like add in some extra features for you if you know ahead of time that that's what you want. But because this is our first site, over the course of this tutorial, we're going to go through this process manually just so that we can see how everything fits together. So for now, we're just going to say no, we don't want to add a CMS.
Okay. So just hit enter.
We'll get to that later. Yeah. So if you just hit enter.
Okay.
And then we're going to do the same thing here. So we're going to add our own styling system manually. So we're going to say no.
Okay.
Okay. Additional features with other plugins. So this one, we're going to talk more about plugins in a later session. But for now, you can just select that first one. I think you...
Yeah, I think if I move my arrow keys, so
okay, great.
So I just leave it on the first one then. And then
yeah, so hit enter, and that should toggle. Yeah, that's going to toggle that first one. And what this is going to do, you don't have to worry about the details too much, but this is basically going to add a plugin to your site that makes it work better on Gatsby Cloud.
Cool.
And then we're going to go down
and then choose done.
Done. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right, there you go.
Woo. Okay, great. So now it's just going to tell you this is what we're going to do. And then if you hit Y or yes, it should
there you go.
Start.
Yeah, it says clone site template, installing that. Yeah, so all you really need are fingers and eyes.
Not even fingers if you are using assistive technologies.
That's true. Yeah, or maybe Benny can start using his paws.
Ooh, there we go. Dogs who code.
Yeah. Hey, a new series.
Yeah.
And have Benny and Clifford.
I would watch that. Yeah. My dog's name is Clifford.
Yeah.
They could be virtual friends.
All right.
Okay, so what this is going to do is create your new folder with your new Gatsby project in it. What it's doing under the hood is it's cloning a like template site and just making a copy of that on your computer and then installing all of the tools that it's going to need. Great, so it looks like that finished. So now what you can do is change into the directory that you just made with that CD command.
So again, lazy copy and paste.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we're not actually going to need to run it locally for the rest of the stuff in this section, but we might as well do it just so that you can see. So if you run that npm run develop command, what that's going to do is start up your local development server. So basically a version of your site that's just running from your machine that you can use to test stuff, basically to see that your changes that you're making are working as you expect it to.
This is the URL, right? So
yeah, totally.
Should we show it?
Yeah, let's do it. So if you go to localhost 8000, there you go. That's your very first Gatsby site. You did it.
Yay. Well, we did that in less than 10 minutes. I think we should start our own agency. Let's do it.
There we go. Excellent at making template sites.
Okay.
We could just crank these out.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So in the next, either we'll see how far we get today, but either later today or in the next session in 2 weeks, we'll work on like customizing this and making some updates to it. But for now, let's work on getting this on the internet.
Okay.
Okay, here, let me check the questions in the chat real fast. Can you please make a video about full-fledged SEO related website? That's a good question. maybe at some point in the future. I know that Gatsby has some stuff baked in automatically to try and help make your site perform better or have better
Right.
SEO. How do you say that
Yeah.
in a sentence?
Yeah, to make it SEO
Friendly.
SEO friendly or
Yeah.
Ninja SEO site. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but from my just own personal experience, yeah, Gatsby, you can build, you can create an SEO component. I've done one myself and put it in the header using React Helmet. So it's, you can do it that way, or there are plugins also. So either way.
Yeah. Actually, I think that we have a how-to guide
Yeah.
on that. Kirsten, if you're listening, if you could find a link to that, it would be like a how-to guide on creating an SEO component. But yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe we can do a deeper dive on that in a future session.
Yeah.
And then another one from John Hansen Artist. Did you go over the Gatsby CLI install?
No.
I've got the latest version. So why do I get a warning box when I stop a Gatsby develop telling me to upgrade?
But
I don't know. It's just when you stop the development server. Honestly, I don't ever read the stuff that pops up as I'm killing the server because I just am ending it. Yeah, I don't know. If you're updated to the latest version.
Yeah, it shouldn't, unless, I mean, I know that we just released a new version of the CLI like yesterday. So it's possible. So if you could just,
try updating again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
hurt.
I don't have a great answer. You can always try tweeting, like reach out to us on Twitter with maybe like a screenshot, and then we can help troubleshoot that some more. Sorry, that's not a stellar answer, but okay. Any other questions, or what other questions do folks have about what we've done so far? Or Hannah Rosa, what questions do you have about?
So far, nothing yet.
All right, great.
Yeah. I mean, later on, I mean, just the CMS integrations that we have, I know we work with a lot of them. But we'll probably go through that later.
Yeah. In a future one, maybe we'll touch on how to integrate with what a CMS content management system.
Yes.
If you want to pull in data from WordPress or Contentful or wherever. Okay. Hi. Can I have some custom endpoint in my Gatsby application to handle form submission from client side?
I mean, I would say, I mean, I created a site with a form submission that was a third-party form, but the question is kind of unclear. Maybe if you could clarify. But because I mean, you can put a third-party form submission like API there, so it's it's custom in that sense.
Yeah, we do also have some. I think I can talk about this because it's on the docs site. We do also have a. Sorry, I'm trying to multitask and pull this up at the same time. We do have some docs about how to use Gatsby functions, which is the way to use serverless functions on Gatsby Cloud. And so we have, it's in beta right now. So full disclosure, there's, if you're trying to run a serverless function for your Gatsby site, that might be something that's worth looking into.
Yeah.
We're going to have people on future streams come in and talk about Gatsby functions in more detail. Another day. Cool. Okay, yeah, John Hansen Artist. I will reach out to you on Discord, I guess. Cool. So now let's get back into it. So now we've got our site, we've got some code, but it's just on our local machine. And so now,
Right.
in order to put it onto the internet, we need to send our code out into the world and get it onto GitHub. So what we're going to do now is go, if you can open up GitHub in your browser.
Okay.
Yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to make a new repository, which just means it's like a folder on GitHub for your code. It's like a new project, basically. Oh, yeah. Sometimes I find that you can't actually do it from the mobile view, which is really
I know.
confusing to me.
So
If you make your window a little bigger, yeah.
Yeah. Let me just do this for now, and then I'll go
Perfect.
back to my other split screen. So I just make a new repo?
Yep. Yeah. So if you
All right.
create a new repository, let's see, you can call it whatever you want.
Okay, let's just go learn. Let's just be consistent.
Hooray.
Learn with Sully. Okay. And then not any of these things that I should
this is just going to ask you if you want to make it a public repo or a private repo. So if you want people to see it, we would love to see what you're working on. And then you don't need to check any of these other boxes.
Okay. All right.
Okay, cool. So now you've got this new empty repository on GitHub. And what you're going to do, because we already have an existing repository on our computer, you're going to copy that, like,
all of this
what is
stuff
it? The second code block. Yeah, the one that's 3 lines long.
Okay.
And run those commands.
Let me just stop my server and
run. Yeah.
And so it's doing its magic. There you go.
So what that's going to do is push your code up to a new branch on your GitHub repository. So now that that's done running, if you go back to GitHub and refresh the page, you should be able to see now you've got some code in there.
Yep.
And I know we didn't take a look at what is actually in this code, in this project yet, but we can do that. We'll do that either later today or in the next section once we dive into the actual code.
All right.
But great. So now this is all on GitHub. So now we need to connect Gatsby Cloud to our GitHub repository. So if you go to, what is it?
I think it's Gatsby Cloud. There's my.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Yes. So for the folks at home, if you go to gatsbyjs.com/dashboard.
Yeah. Let me just go from the start. So.
Oh, great.
So
love it.
So this is probably where they're gonna come in, right? And then hit login. Well, I'm already logged in, so I'm. Do you want me to start from the beginning, like pretend?
No, this is fine. I hope they've logged into things before. They're on Twitch at least, so
yeah.
So hopefully that's straightforward. And then so now what we're going to do is we're going to create a Gatsby Cloud site and point it to our code on GitHub. So if you click that purple add a site button in the middle of the screen, yeah. So this is going to take you through a workflow to get your stuff all set up. So we're going to import from a Git repository.
I'll keep the selection. Okay.
Yeah.
Hit next.
Okay. And then our code is on GitHub. So we're going to select that as our Git provider. And then this one, you might have to give it permissions. Yeah. So if you, the way that I've done it before is in the Gatsby Cloud window. Okay. If you go back to, so like the select an organization drop down.
Oh, yes.
There's like an add a new organization. Yeah. And then if you click on, on your Glitten one.
Oh, password. Okay. Okay. Thank God for this. Jeez. Oh. because I can never remember anything. So GitHub, and I need my two-factor. Oh no, okay, don't need that. Okay, so now.
So now if you go to, you can either select all repositories.
I'll just do that for now.
Sweet.
So, okay, let's save.
Okay. Great. And so now it should show up in the list again. Cool. So if you start typing, what was it? Learn with Sully. Woohoo, there she is. Okay. So now it's going to ask you some extra setup stuff. This is just like, what branch from your GitHub repository do you want it to look at? So for our main one, that means anytime that we push to the main branch of our repo, Gatsby Cloud will see that and rebuild our site. So that's fine as the default.
Okay. And then the site name, you can change that, or
you can change it if you want.
We'll just remove the main.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Next.
Yep.
Okay. I'm literally just I'm not doing anything until you tell me to, so that's why I'm pausing.
Love it. No, it's good. It's good.
You're the boss.
Okay.
Okay.
In this one aspect of my life, I guess. Okay, so now it's going to ask you if you want to integrate with some other tools or like other data sources. We're not going to do this for now, but it's nice to know that in the future, if you want to, this is where you would do that. So you can skip this step. Yes, we do. You can check out, was that last week?
Yeah.
It's all blurring together. At some point in the past, there was a live stream where we talked about the new Shopify stuff. So you can skip this. And then if you had environment variables that you wanted to set up, this is where you would do that. But we're not going to do that for now. So now you can
actually, hit. I was like, some people are like, what is our environment variable? So like oftentimes you have API keys. You don't want to just expose it in your code. So you hide them through environment variables.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what they are. So create site.
Yep. Create site. Right. And then it's going to do a little bit of thinking.
And loading.
Okay. And here it is. So now you can see you've got this site. If you've used other, what are they called? Like other CI/CD tools. Yeah. This might look familiar where you've got your site and then you can see different builds. So right now we only have the one build that was triggered. But as you push new changes to your GitHub repo, then you will have then Gatsby Cloud will see those changes, trigger a new build, and then update your site.
So does it trigger? I mean, so any change I make, like even I change one word, it'll automatically trigger?
If it's on the main branch, which is the one that we connected it to, then it'll push stuff. So if you don't want it to go live immediately, then you should work in a feature branch or something like that. Yeah.
Got it. Cool.
And then the other cool thing that happens now, we've got Gatsby hosting, so you can actually also host your site from Gatsby Cloud. So let's see. Oh yeah, it'll be that purple URL under where it says hosted on Gatsby Cloud.
This one here?
Yeah. If you click on that, it might not. Okay. So it's still building, so it's not live yet.
But almost.
But yeah, this is all set up automatically for you, which is really nice.
Looks like it deployed. So let me refresh. Or almost there. Okay, not yet. Okay.
Oh yeah, you might have to do like a hard refresh. When in doubt, that's what I do.
I know. Okay. All right, it's still doing its thing.
So, still thinking.
Yeah. Usually the first build is always the longest because, has to go get the IP address, whatever, networking things happen.
Yeah. So, well, and in future builds, you'll have a lot of stuff cached too. Yeah, it doesn't really matter for us now because our site is so small. But as you're working on bigger sites, like the Shopify site was a good example where if you've got like 10,000 products, the first build will be slower because it's going and like getting all of your data, but then subsequent builds will be faster because it's just looking at the changes since your last build. Okay, great.
So,
here it is. It's on the internet.
Yeah. There it
Let's
is.
see.
Yeah.
Here, what is the URL? Learn
with
Sully Gatsby. The Gatsby JS.
.io.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. I get an error when I'm.
Oh, maybe you do your hard refresh.
Maybe I typed it in wrong. Okay. Well, at any rate, it's on the internet. Oh, yeah. Thanks for the reminder, Kirsten. So enter the giveaway for swag if you want. Oh, John Hansen Artist. Thank you. The first time I set things up on Gatsby Cloud, I was using Firebase and GitHub. Have to say the flow from the site is so easy to follow. Thank you. Thank you. That's that's good to hear.
And one thing also that I like about Gatsby Cloud is that you actually have your Lighthouse core here. So as you're like developing, you can kind of see, okay, how am I doing from a Lighthouse? And just for those who are not familiar with Lighthouse, Lighthouse is sort of a industry standard. I mean, it's made by Google, and when Google says something, we all follow. But it's like it measures the sort of performance of your site and gives you a score. So 100 is like perfect. Right now, I mean, we don't have much on our site, so we're perfect. But as you add more things, JavaScript bundles and whatnot, things start to get slower, and so there's ways to optimize that. But basically, your Lighthouse scores will decline, and then you have to make some modifications, and that's something we also can help with from a Gatsby perspective.
Yeah, and if you want to hear more about Lighthouse and performance scores in general, we've got a stream from a couple weeks ago with Ward Peters.
That's right.
From Gatsby, who came on to talk about that. So go check that out.
Cool.
Okay, great. Well, we did this faster than I thought that we were going to. So I guess let's jump into part 2.
All right. Okay.
Let's get wild. Okay.
Okay. Part 2. So I guess I could just do that. Ooh.
Woo!
Okay.
So this one is a doozy. So it's probably good that we are starting it now. There's a lot of stuff in here. So if you're new to React, we're going to talk about some React stuff. Well, yeah. If you're new to React, let me know in the chat so I know like how much detail to go into. But basically, this whole section is the React section. So it's all about creating React components, the different kinds of React components that you can make in a Gatsby site. Some stuff about like how to use components and props to change the way that your components render. And then also a little bit of stuff about styling and specifically CSS modules, which is the version or
that style like what we wear, that kind of style.
I wish. We'll have a little fashion show.
Maybe we should do that next time.
Right, I know. It's a fashion show for our website.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see. We'll just jump into this and see how far we get in like the next 20 minutes. Okay. So let's see. Let me refresh my brain and look at what's even in this. Okay, so it can use. This is probably fine. Can you scroll down to? There should be a picture.
Okay.
Soon. Yeah, this one. So
I'm gonna make it bigger just so.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Love it. Actually, let me also drop this link in the chat.
Yeah, I must say the Gatsby swag is very nice. I like it.
The socks are very popular, I hear. Everybody's always asking about the socks. It's funny because
No.
socks are like the toy, or not the toy. They're like the present that you don't want as a child. But now
Yeah,
that
I
I'm
know.
grown, I will never not be excited about socks.
Yeah. I just realized I could use these socks right away.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody needs socks.
Yeah.
uh,
Cool.
okay. So if you are new to React, um, the way the well, let me start over. If you're new to React, React is a JavaScript library that is helpful for building user interfaces, UIs. So if you have a website, kind of like this store page that is shown here, the way that you use React is you break down this UI into smaller chunks called components. So if you were to look at this website, you might have a component for the nav bar up at the top.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Or you might have a component for like the sidebar or for a product grid. And then you can even go a level deeper. And within your product grid component, you can have like individual product card components for like a single product. And so React helps you build out each of these components and then compose them. So put them together into larger components and pages. So that's what Gatsby uses under the hood to build your UIs. And so we're going to learn about how to make some components.
Cool.
So there's two big kinds of components that are going to be in your Gatsby site. The first one is page components, and the second one is building block components. Like building block components is not a real technical term. We just made it up because it's a helpful name to describe what they are. But first, we're going to look at page components. So a page component is it contains all of the content for an entire page. So if you were to think of this like Gatsby store page, you might have a store page component that contains all of these different smaller like navbar, sidebar, product grid components.
It's like the Uber. It's like the Uber component.
Yeah.
Got it.
So we're going to switch back to our code and we're going to make our first page component.
Okay. I think let me get back to my learn. Oop.
And actually, do you still have VS Code open? Because it might be easier to do this there.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. So now we're going to dive into it. So if you open up the, like, what is it? The project sidebar, just so that we can see what files are included in your, oh, great. Here we go. Sweet. So you can see these are all of the files that got created for us automatically when we use the Gatsby new command. So there's some folders that we don't really need to look at, like the cache and the node modules and this public folder. But the stuff that we mainly are going to care about is going to be in this source folder. So if you can open that up. Okay, great. So we've got an images directory and a pages directory. So let's go into the pages directory. And then you're going to see that there's 2 pages here created for you automatically when you created your new site. So you've got an index page and a 404 page. So the index page is going to be the one for our home page. So like localhost.8000. So this is going to be the one that we're going to update for now. And actually, you can just delete all of this, and we're going to start from scratch.
Okay.
Woo.
Gone.
Boom. Okay. So there's 3 steps for creating a React component. And this is going to be a process that we use many, many times. So tune in. So the first step that you're going to do is you're going to import React from React. Yeah. Oh, and actually, this is different now with the import statements are different with the like newer version of React. So actually, this is going to be import star as React from React.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think that it's
Okay.
Honestly, I don't totally remember why we do this. I think that it was like the React team is going to change imports in the future. I don't know. I might be speaking heresy, but I think that that's what that was about.
Ooh.
But anyway, what this
got
is going to do.
Gotta get my notifications off.
Oh,
Right.
What this is going to do is it's going to tell React, or it's going to tell your site that you can use React in this file. So the next step that we're going to do is define our component. So our page component, we can call it like home page or index page.
Okay. So do I make a functional component? Or
yeah, let's do functional components. So you're going to do const homepage, I guess.
capital? Is it?
Yeah, capital. The that's like the
Convention,
React convention. Yep, is capital
Okay.
names for components.
Arrow function?
Yeah, let's do an arrow function.
Why not, right? Oops.
Sweet. Okay, great. And for anybody who's new to React, a component is basically going to be a function that returns JSX. JSX is like a special syntax for writing. I think it stands for JavaScript extension. It sort of looks like having HTML in your JavaScript file. So we'll look at that in a second. So for now, let's just return like an H1 element. So
Okay.
you'll write it the same way that you would write it in an HTML file. And then, yay. Okay, great. So this is step 2, is defining our component. So step 1 was import React. And that lets you use this JSX format inside of your JavaScript file. Otherwise, when you try to build your site, it won't know what you're trying to do.
Yep.
So step 1, import. Step 2, define your component. Step 3 is going to be to export your component. So we want this to be the default export. Huzzah!
Yeah.
Great. So now...
This is a common thing that people forget, the export.
I do that too. It gives you... Well, I don't know. It'll say some sort of error message about like, oh, we couldn't find this component. Like couldn't find anything called homepage.
Right.
And you'll be like, it's right there. Yeah. So make sure that you have all 3 of those steps. And so now if you start up your development server, or is it still running?
I don't think so. Let's see.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
So,
What anybody in the chat remember what the command was? Or Generosa, do you remember what the command was?
no, I need help. Someone
Help,
in the
friends.
chat. Will they get swag if they answer?
Maybe. Who knows?
No.
You'll get I don't know, virtual cookies from me.
Yeah, thank
Woo!
you. Gatsby
Deb.
develop. There you go.
Hooray. Great. So we're gonna run this.
It does its magic.
Yep. Okay, sweet. And then now that we see these messages, we know that it's ready.
So shall I see what it looks like?
Open her up.
Okay. All right. Let's get this other tab here. Hello,
Yay! Great.
Hey.
Okay, so now we've done it. We've created our first page component. So now let's add some more content to this, because this is while I thoroughly enjoy this, it's not the most content.
This is the Louvre. Okay.
Yeah.
We're back to our
Okay. So now let's add another element to this. Let's try just adding a p tag after our h1.
Okay. And I think it's gonna complain. But
yeah.
And just say,
but we'll see.
I'm very verbose. Okay, save. It's gonna.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Love it. Cool. So this is going to be the first of many errors that I'm sure that we'll see.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at what this error is saying. Let's see. If you scroll up a little bit more so we can read the error message. Okay. Adjacent JSX elements must be wrapped in an enclosing tag. Did you want a JSX fragment? So this is one of the things about using React components. You can only return a single element from your component. So because this thing right now has two siblings, React gets upset about that. So in order to fix that, we need to wrap both of these components in one element. So even though that element contains multiple elements, it's still like only one thing at the top level, which is what it's looking for. So let's see. To start, I guess let's wrap this in a div.
Okay.
And then we can open it up and see. Huzzah. Ugh, love that automatic formatting.
Yeah. So I have, just for people in the audience, I have this extension called Prettier, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. And I also use I use Emmet, which is shortcuts so I don't have to type div and blah, blah, blah. But I'm doing it the hard way right now so that you can see exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, love that.
Okay.
So now we can see that it rebuilt the development bundle, and we didn't see any errors, which is great. So if we go back to our browser, hooray, there we are. And can you inspect with your dev tools just so that we can see like what the DOM structure looks like for that part of, can you go back to the elements tab?
Yep.
Yeah. And then actually, can you make it bigger too?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe also
bad eyes.
Let me move it to the right. So
nice.
Might be better there too.
Hooray.
Love it. It bigger. There you go.
Sweet. And then let's see. Let's open up the part that has the like actual heading and
this part?
Sorry, not the head, the like hello Sully heading. Yeah, so inside of the body.
Oops. Okay, hang on. There you go.
Okay, so you can see that there's some extra wrapper stuff that Gatsby puts in for you. I think it's in the first div. I usually click that little what's it even called? The like inspect button, that little square with the cursor.
Yeah, this part.
And then click, yeah. And then click directly on it. Cool. Yeah. So there it is. So now you can see this is the contents of our page. There's that div there, there's our H1, and there's our P tag. But if you don't want to have all of these like extra div wrappers, because it can end up getting kind of messy when you just have divs and divs and divs.
Yeah.
You can, instead of a div, you can use something called a fragment. So if you go back to your code, instead of putting that div in there, you can just put the empty triangle brackets. Yeah. And that's called a fragment. It's basically like a way to cheat that wrapper rule, where now you've still got a fragment that is a single element wrapping all of your stuff in your component. But it's not actually going to be reflected in the DOM. So now that has finished building, we can go back to our code. Okay, yeah. And now if you select that thing again, now you can see that extra wrapper div is gone. So there's still this div from Gatsby that Gatsby creates, but the like nested one isn't there anymore. So that's a way to keep your DOM structure a little tidier.
Yeah, nice. Cool.
Great. So we've done it. Now, let's see. I guess as a sort of like check for understanding, I'm going to let you drive this one, Generosa. I'm going to have you create a new page called, let's see, let's make it an about page.
So a new page. So new file, about.js. and then I do my import.
Step
So
one.
let's see. I have I'm using Emmet here. Import
Ooh.
React from React. So you saw my shortcut was IRC, I think it was. So actually, it's even there. VS Code does come with Emmet.
Oh,
So you
nice.
said it's import star.
Yeah. I think that import React from React will still work, but I want to say that there's like something about in the future, the React team is going to change the way that imports work. And so writing them this way is like setting you up for the future when they make changes in like React, I don't
Yeah.
know, whatever next version comes out.
And then
Oh,
another.
here, 1 second. We got a question from Ali Pixel. What is the purpose of that Gatsby div? Oh, I love this picture. The Gatsby div, the wrapper one, that's just what, like when the Gatsby framework is building your site, it puts your page contents inside of that wrapper div. Yeah, so that I think shows up on any page on your Gatsby site.
Cool. So shall I continue?
Yeah. Let's go.
Okay.
Back to work.
All right. So now I'm going to build my about component. And again, using Emmet, you can see I can create a function, my arrow functional component like I did by just saying RAFC. And what's so cool, it also copies the name of the.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm going to just make it all. And it actually did an export already. Wait. Yeah.
Okay, we can try this and see what happens. I'm pretty sure it has to be a default export,
Yeah, I know.
but let's try this and see what it's going to do.
Well, okay, let's do on each one. This is the about page. Okay, let's do that.
Yay.
Whoop.
I don't know if it's going to get mad that you have two. Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it did. It got mad.
Okay.
Because I had two Reacts.
Only import React one time.
Yeah. Okay, finish building.
Okay.
So I'll go back to our browser now.
Actually, let's see what this warning says.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, great. So it's going to tell you in page templates, so this page component, only a default export of a React component is allowed.
So it needs to be default.
Yeah. Let's actually, before we change that, let's just try it. Let's just try it in our browser and see what happens.
Okay.
And actually, this is a good time to answer this question from BTAR Jack. Yeah. How does Gatsby handle routes? Does it look for pages, for the pages folder to create corresponding routes? It does. So any default export component that you have inside of your source/pages directory is going to have a route automatically created for it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So because we don't have it as the default export, we're going to see this lovely error.
Yeah. So then basically I just put my route, the about, on the URL. But in real life, you would probably have a link in the page and you wouldn't do this. But for now, that's how I got to the page.
Yeah.
But I got the error.
And that's actually what we're going to do in, we probably don't have time for it this time, but next time we're going to look at that, at adding links and things.
Cool.
Yeah. One last thing that I'll add is so the route that gets generated, the name of that route, so /about, that comes from the name of the file in the source/pages directory. There's also some other cool stuff that you can do with like generating dynamic pages that we'll talk about in a later session. If you're curious, you can look at the docs on the file system route API, and that'll show you how that works. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that another day.
Yeah, that's a cool one. I really like that. It's like magic.
Yeah. It is. It is. Shout out to Leonard who worked on that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I guess let's make this work and deploy it to the internet, and I think that'll probably be good today. Here?
or in the
I don't
bottom?
know if that'll work. I've always put it at the bottom.
Yeah, me
I don't know
too.
if that's a syntax thing.
Yeah, it doesn't like it. So let me
Yeah.
do it
Silly
down here.
JavaScript.
Yeah, about. There we go.
Sweet.
So no warnings. Let's look. Compiled, rebuilding. Everything looks good.
Okay, great.
Refresh.
Try again.
There we go.
Huzzah! We've done it.
Huzzah!
Okay,
We
great.
should go in business, man.
I know. Let's do
Let's-
this. We can make a
Let's
bunch
quit this
of
job. Come on.
static sites. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, cool. So now we've made some changes. We've decided this is exactly what we want our site to look like, and we want to put it on the internet. So what we're going to do is go back to VS Code, and we're going to
Okay.
commit this. So if you're new
Ooh.
to using Git, commits are like, it's like taking a snapshot, like a picture of your code at this moment. This is what it looks like, so that you can save it and like go back to it later if you want to.
Yeah, don't be afraid of committing. It's always a good.
Yeah. Commit early and often, and
Yes.
revert when you break stuff.
Yeah. So as you can see in my terminal, we have index.js already sort of added in my Git, but not my about page. So I'm just gonna go do git add dot, which means it'll add everything, because I'm gonna have more pages later on. It's just gonna have everything later. So if I do a git status, it's saying, okay, you have modified your index, but now you also have an about. So I'm going to commit everything with a message. I'll just say first commit, and we are in business. Okay.
Woo.
And then what do I do? Do I push it now?
Okay, yeah. So now you're going to push it. And what pushing does is it says, take this code that's on Generosa's computer and put it onto the GitHub repo that's in the cloud.
So I'm going to push from my origin, which is where I'm from. I mean, I'm from the Philippines, not that, but you know what I mean. And then
Yeah, from the computer.
Yeah, and then to the main branch. So hit that. It's going to tell me it's doing stuff. So it did it.
Great. And so now let's do this in two steps. So let's check on GitHub, check your repo so that we can see. Okay, so you can see it. Yeah, so now that like commit message next to her little picture is the one that we just entered. And now if you go to Gatsby Cloud, it might take a minute for it to notice. Oh no, there it is. So Gatsby Cloud sees that your GitHub repo has changed, takes that new commit and starts a new build for you. So when this finishes deploying, so you can see that it only took like 20 seconds to build, which is really nice. And now it's deployed. So in a moment, if we go back to your Learn with Sully site, hopefully.
Oh, I need to go to the about?
No. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can go to the about page.
So forward slash.
So it looks like.
There we go.
Hooray!
Yeah.
And then if we go back to the home page again and refresh that, does it?
There we go. Yeah.
Huzzah! We've done it.
Yes. Told you.
Great. So this was the first step of many steps that it's going to take us to build our first Gatsby site. Hooray! This is going so well. Any questions? What questions do folks have from the chat? I really like the ones we've gotten so far.
Yeah. And we have a lot of tips from the chat also about export default. Yeah.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. So I guess it's
Benedict. How do you say your name? Benedict Ray says you can export default. Oh, so we had the const in there. That's why I was upset.
Yeah.
But then they also say that if you do that export default, then you don't get a good debug name. That's good to know. Okay. I feel validated now. I'm going to keep doing it in 2 steps.
Yeah. Cool. Right.
Okay. We've got one question from John Hansen Artist. a complicated thing that can happen with routes is that you need to be consistent with the trailing slash. So the difference between about, so slash
Yes.
about slash and slash about with
Yeah.
no slash.
Meaning if there was a space like that, it would
Yeah.
give you that.
I know that this is something that we've been talking about internally, because I think that this also happens on like the Gatsby site sometimes. I don't know what the best choice is though. I'll see if I can find out. Or Generosa, do you have any ideas? Is this something that
I've only used Slugify to get rid of those things with spaces, but I don't know if that's the best choice. Get my authenticate. Okay, yeah. So I don't know. Probably people in the interwebs can answer. I don't know.
Yeah, tweet at us, and I'll send it to somebody.
Yeah.
Can you show where to add a custom domain name to the site? Yeah, we can. I think I know where it is, so we'll go poke around. So this will be in Gatsby Cloud. So if you wanted to have like a custom domain name, like I don't want learnwithsully.gatsbyjs.io, I want learnwithsully.com. I think if you go into site settings,
or here,
it's right there.
Yeah.
They knew you would want to do that.
Yeah.
So you'll have this little pop-up that shows up. But if that's not there, it looks like you can go into site settings and then hosting.
Yeah.
And then connect a new domain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're ready.
Wow, is that it? You just enter it.
Yeah. I mean, are you brave? Because I do have this domain. Something. Okay. I don't like doing live on the fly.
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
Yeah, it's reserved. Yeah, it's mine. That's why. Okay. But
that's funny.
Yeah.
I think you can also use that to change. Well, never mind. I'm not going to say that. I don't actually know that that's true.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay. Here, Ray says Netlify reroutes to the one with a trailing slash when reloading, so best to use that. Not sure about Gatsby Cloud. Thanks for that. So if you're using Netlify, use a trailing slash. Yeah, I don't know about Gatsby Cloud. I'll have to find that out. That seems like something that should be in the docs.
Yeah.
I got to get on that. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I think that seems like a good stopping spot. So if there are more questions, you can reach out to us on Twitter. There's the Gatsby JS Twitter, or you can find me. I'm Megan E. Sully on a lot of places. MEGANESULLI. Generosa, where can people find you?
I don't want them to find me.
You can find her on this stream in 2 weeks when she comes back.
I'm just kidding. Twitter is Litton G, but please don't send me spam.
Yeah, be nice.
Be nice.
Okay, great. Well, we'll see you all in 2 weeks to do more React component things. Okay. Oh, we do also have a Discord server if you want to join that and ask us any questions in the meantime.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thanks so much for joining, everyone. We'll see you next week.
2 weeks?
Or I guess we'll do this again in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, but
someone else will be here next week. I'll see you next week.
Yeah. Sully is always here for you.
Yeah. I need that on a bumper sticker. Yes. All right. Bye, y'all.
All right. Bye.